It was a small apartment building, home to 20 flats and filled with educated, respectable families. That afternoon, children played happily in the compound, while a middle-aged man in a wheelchair watched them quietly, a faint smile on his lips. Near the entrance, a woman of about 30 argued with a taxi driver over the fare, her voice sharp in the warm air. From a window above, two neighbors peered down. One spoke bitterly, her words slicing through the laughter of the children. Now, if women like her move in, the neighborhood's reputation will be ruined. Wendy, you should talk to James and get this sinful woman out. He's the union president, after all. Wendy replied calmly, her tone measured. Do you think I haven't tried? It's not easy. Nina bought the flat. She didn't rent it. If she were a tenant, we could have objected. But now, there's nothing we can do. Wendy was friendly with Zoe, the woman beside her. Together with her husband James, they were respected by everyone. James, a religious man, managed the building's affairs honestly as union president. And Wendy, affectionately called Istaniji, taught the children the Quran. Zoe frowned, her voice laced with disapproval. May Marcus's boat sink for this. I spoke to Seth yesterday. He said there's nothing we can do as long as she obeys the law. 3 months ago, she got out of jail for murdering her husband. Her eyes narrowed. Only wicked women kill their husbands, not decent ones like us. She must have done it for money. Wendy shook her head, trying to soothe the rising tension. Seth said she wasn't proven guilty. The court released her, that's all. Zoe snorted. Exactly. Wendy sighed, her voice softening. Leave it, Zoe. Such things happen all the time. Criminals roam free while the innocent suffer. Anyway, enough about her. What did you cook today? Zoe smiled, and the gossip faded into the evening. As night gave way to dawn, Nina, the woman everyone whispered about, stood by her window. A painter by profession, her eyes traced the fading stars. Yet her thoughts drifted far away, lost in memories of a past she could never forget. Nina had grown up in a world very different from the one she now inhabited. A world where women danced, sang, and entertained men, charming them while taking whatever they could. As she matured, she came to understand the harsh reality of her upbringing. When she asked about her parents, Ms. Nora, whom all the girls called Aunt Nora, had told her, "Some people brought you here as a child and sold you for money. I don't know who your parents are. Consider me your mother from now on." And that was all Nina had. From that moment on, she stopped asking questions. She lacked nothing, except love, except respect. Her childhood innocence had been sold early. By the time she became a young woman, she was the star of the brothel, an exceptional dancer, a beauty that drew wealthy clients, and a fortune for Ms. Nora. Yet Nina's heart, it longed for a different life, a life where women were respected, where they lived with husbands and families instead of being sold to strangers. She had never known such a life, but she yearned for it deeply. And then, one day, fate gave her that chance. Years later, standing by the window, she asked herself quietly, her voice almost a whisper in the darkness, had marrying Samuel been a mistake? The neighbors' scorn. It was morning, and the children had gone to school. Due to her poor health, Wendy had dismissed her Quran students early. Before Maghrib, her maid Zara entered, carrying a tray. "Neighbors care a lot about you," she said with a smile. "They sent hot biryani and zarda." Wendy's expression darkened. "Is this the same woman who has been sending food before?" "Yes," Zara replied. "Her name is Nina." At the mention of the name, Wendy sprang from her bed. "Zara, have you lost your mind? Bringing food from that woman's house? We'd rather die than eat from a prostitute's home." She snatched the tray and stormed toward Nina, who stood at her gate wrapped in a modest white sheet. "Here! Take this back," Wendy spat. "Your impure hands have no place here. Don't ever set foot in this house again." Tears welled in Nina's eyes. For a moment, Wendy felt a flicker of guilt, but she quickly silenced it, convincing herself that Nina should feel ashamed, not her. Trembling, Nina took the tray and turned away quietly. Judgment and hypocrisy. The next day was Friday. A women's religious gathering filled the building, and Wendy's voice echoed through the loudspeaker, preaching about good manners and pure living. Meanwhile, Nina sat at her friend Grace's house, having her eyebrows shaped. Imagine, the same woman who insulted you yesterday is now lecturing about morality. Hypocrisy at its finest. Nina sighed softly, resigned. Nina smiled faintly. Leave it, Grace. We're the unlucky ones, born into such a life. Looking into the mirror, she softly said, There, just a little hair left here. Grace continued her work. Later that evening, sitting alone, a painful memory returned, a night filled with music, smoke, and the laughter of strangers. The night of the dance. The hall was packed with men, most of them drunk. Nina danced at the center, wearing a flaming pink dress that shimmered under the lights. Delicate flower garlands adorned her wrists, releasing a faint fragrance with each movement. Her beauty and grace held the crowd spellbound. Among the spectators was Samuel, whose eyes followed her every motion. Nina smiled at him while dancing, her eyes sparkling, and subtly gestured for him to come closer. Feeling important, Samuel straightened his posture as if he were the guest of honor. But the moment was shattered. Two drunk men nearby made lewd remarks. Nina ignored them. She was used to such attention, but Samuel couldn't. His face darkened, and within moments he was fighting them. Others quickly intervened, stopping the fight, but the spell of the evening had been broken. That night would mark the beginning of a change that would alter Nina's life forever. The promise. The fight ended, but something had shifted inside Samuel. His heart had made a decision. It wasn't the first time Samuel had seen Nina. 6 months earlier, he had noticed her dancing at a private party, hosted by a high-ranking government official. That single glimpse had left a lasting impression. Since then, he had been visiting Nina's house regularly, each visit deepening his fascination. Ms. Nora, the madam who had raised Nina, was delighted. Her years of training were paying off. Nina had become her most valuable asset, a mesmerizing dancer and a soulful singer. When Nina sang, her voice stirred the hearts of listeners, carrying a sweet intoxication that enchanted them. When she danced, she lost herself completely, as if body and soul moved as one. God had gifted her such beauty that even the proudest man lowered his gaze. Her fame spread quickly, drawing admirers from far and wide. For 15 years, Ms. Nora had carefully watched over her, earning fortunes from her talent. That night, under the dim lantern light, Nina's face glowed with a divine radiance. The performance had ended abruptly after the fight. Samuel, his anger now cooled, smiled and presented her with a small velvet box. Inside lay a diamond necklace. For you. Nina accepted it gracefully, her eyes full of gratitude, and sat near him, looking at him with quiet affection. When Ms. Nora stepped away, Samuel leaned closer. Tell me something. Don't you ever feel disgusted by this life? You're treated like a prize to be won. Nina looked away for a moment and spoke softly. I've made my peace with this life. Even if I wanted to leave, who would take my hand? Samuel responds instantly. I will. His voice trembled with emotion. Before she could reply, footsteps echoed in the corridor. Samuel lowered his voice. Nina, we'll talk about this again, soon. She didn't answer, but her eyes said it all. When Ms. Nora entered, Samuel stood reluctantly, not wanting to leave. Each time he turned back, Nina smiled softly. A smile that said, Yes, I'll wait. That smile followed him all the way out. Ms. Nora's warning. Once he left, Ms. Nora's expression hardened. The sweetness vanished, replaced by a calculating gaze. Nina sat quietly, playing with her braid, when Ms. Nora's voice cut through the silence. Well, my clever girl, she said, waving the diamond necklace, that man has paid for your art, for 2 hours of entertainment. Nina smiled faintly. I think it's a fair price. Fair? 15 years in this profession and you still don't understand the art of getting what you deserve. I'm your friend, not your enemy. Samuel isn't just anyone. He's wealthy, influential. If you play it right, you could have a bungalow, a house, everything. Reflective, emotional, Nina's inner voice. Nina listened quietly, her heart aching. How could she tell Ms. Nora she didn't want his gifts? She had already given him something far greater, her heart. For the first time, Nina was in love, and that love burned quietly on both sides. The soft dawn light filtered through the curtains. Nina stirred awake with a sigh. Her eyes opened earlier than usual, stirred by the noise from the street. She glanced at the clock. Just 12. Slipping into her slippers, she walked to the window. The small crowd had gathered in the courtyard, murmuring about something she couldn't quite hear. Ruxar entered the room. Nina asked calmly, "What's happening outside, Ruxar?" Looking down, Nina saw the crowd more clearly. "Why are all these people here? Has there been a fight?" Ruxar, wrapping her hair into a bun, replied casually, "No fight. Someone's left a baby here." Nina's eyes widened. A baby? Left here? How could someone throw away such a precious gift? Probably an illegitimate child, Ruxar shrugged. Happens often. Someone must have dumped it here. As the crowd began to disperse, Nina finally saw the child. A tiny bundle lying on a cloth near the gate. It wasn't beautiful, yet her heart went out to it, drawn inexplicably to the fragile life before her. "I feel so sorry for that baby," Nina whispered. "It must be in pain. That's why it's crying so loudly." Ruxar rolled her eyes. "Let it cry. You're too soft-hearted. Someone will call the police. They'll take it to an orphanage. You don't need to get involved." But Nina couldn't look away. "I'm going downstairs," she said firmly. "I just want to see if anyone has called the police." "Nina, don't get into trouble," Ruxar warned. "Ms. Nora will be furious if she finds out." Ignoring her, Nina wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and hurried downstairs. When Nina returned that evening, she looked exhausted. She had spent the entire day at the hospital with the abandoned child. Ms. Nora, seated in her armchair, frowned as soon as she saw her. "What was the need to take that child to the hospital yourself? Look at your face, you're pale with fatigue. What if you fall ill?" Nina replied softly but firmly. "Not everything in life is about money, Nora. Compassion still exists. The baby was covered in ant bites and barely breathing. Thank God, he's out of danger now. I've taken responsibility for his treatment. When he recovers, the welfare organization will take him. I'll pay his expenses until then." Her calm yet determined tone unsettled Ms. Nora. She could feel her control over Nina slipping. "I was only trying to explain," Ms. Nora said in a gentler voice. "Taking responsibility for someone else's child isn't easy. But if it makes you happy, do it. Just remember, good deeds come with burdens." Then, with a sly smile, Ms. Nora changed the subject. "Samuel called. He's coming to see you tonight. I couldn't refuse your lover. I invited him myself." Nina looked surprised. "But Samuel said he was going to his hometown. He told me he wouldn't be back for a few days." Ms. Nora chuckled. "How long does it take to change one's heart? A true lover is bound by feeling, not distance. Your love must have pulled him back." She turned toward a room. "Now go and freshen up." That evening, Samuel arrived quietly. As soon as Nina entered, he handed her a half-bloomed red rose. "I wanted to leave for my hometown," he said softly, "but your longing brought me here." He hesitated, his voice trembling with sincerity. "Nina, I can't live without you anymore. It tears me apart to see you perform for others, to watch strangers adore what I love most. Yesterday I wanted to say this, but I couldn't find the words." He took a deep breath. "You are not a commodity to me, Nina. I've never seen you as something to be bought or owned. You hold a place of deep respect in my heart. I love you, truly. My heart burns in a fire where everything else has turned to ashes. accept my love for you. I want to make you mine. I want to marry you." Nina's eyes glistened with emotion. She had dreamed of hearing these words, yet reality filled her with quiet fear. "Samuel, will your wife and children accept me?" she asked softly. Samuel looked at her tenderly.
"They'll have to," he said with calm certainty. "I have enough to provide for everyone. Love doesn't divide, it multiplies." His tone brimmed with affection, and Nina felt her heart lift. Becoming someone's wife had always been her dream, a dream now within reach. "What made you so quiet?" Samuel asked gently. "I'm just surprised," Nina said. "You're a family man, yet you've made such a big decision. There's no shortage of good women for you." Samuel smiled. "You're right, but no one else could ever command my heart. Tell me, Nina, will you marry me?" "What objection could I have?" she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "I've longed to leave this life behind. My heart has been searching for a way out, and now, through you, I finally see one. I want to dedicate my life to you." "If you agree," Samuel said, "I'll speak to Ms. Nora myself. I'll meet every condition to make you mine, because I truly love you." He took her hands gently. "I believe in living life on my own terms. We only get one chance. When my father was alive, I followed his every word. But now, no one can stop me from living as I wish. Very soon we'll be married, and you'll have a home that's completely yours. Your own place, your own peace." Nina blinked in disbelief, her heart light and full. For the first time, she saw a future built on dignity, respect, and love. In the following days, Samuel kept his promise. He settled all matters with Miss Nora. Soon, Nina became his wife. She moved into a beautiful house Samuel had purchased for her. Though he couldn't stay with her permanently, he ensured she was never alone, arranging for 2 trusted live-in servants, a husband and wife, Frank and Zara. For Nina, this was a new life, peaceful, respectable, and full of hope. But for Samuel, this was his 3rd marriage. His first wife had died during childbirth with their 2nd daughter. After her death, he married his late wife's sister, Gabriella, at his father's request. Soon, Gabriella learned from her brother Simon that Samuel had secretly married again, this time to Nina, a former dancer. The news filled her with grief and anger. Simon confronted her. "She's beautiful," he said bitterly. "Even the moon would blush to see her. If Samuel has children with her, they'll share your children's inheritance." "Did you speak to him about this? What did he say?" "At first, he denied it," Gabriella said bitterly. "But when I showed him the proof, he admitted everything." "Did you ask him to divorce her?" Simon demanded. "I did," she replied helplessly. "But he refused. He says he's given a respectable life to a woman lost in sin, and he won't undo his good deed." Simon's anger flared. "He's pretending to be a saint now? I'll talk to him myself. I'm staying here tonight." That night, Simon faced Samuel directly. "Samuel," he said sharply, "you've done wrong by marrying a former dancer. It doesn't suit a family man to bring such a woman into his life. If she bears your children, they'll get a share of your property. Our family's wealth will go to strangers, and I won't allow that." Samuel's face darkened. "You're crossing your limits, Simon," he said firmly. "We don't even have children yet, and you're already talking about dividing the inheritance?" Gabriella stepped forward, her voice trembling. "You married her in secret. What about my children? You've already given her a house in Glendale, money, gifts. Why, Samuel? You're taking away what belongs to us." Samuel's patience snapped. "I gave Nina what I wanted to give her," he said firmly. "This discussion is over. I will not divorce her." His voice left no room for argument. Neither Gabriella nor Simon could change his mind. Yet unease settled over Samuel's household. Gabriella and Simon could not bear the thought of sharing respect or inheritance with Nina, while Samuel remained convinced he had done something righteous. To him, Nina was not a mistake. She was redemption. "Take this curry," Nina said softly, holding out a dish. "I made it especially for you." Samuel smiled faintly and served himself. "I've learned to cook just for you, and still you eat so little," she teased gently. He smiled again. "Who says I eat little? You cook so well I feel like finishing it all." They shared a brief, peaceful silence, broken only by the sound of spoons against plates. After a moment, Nina spoke hesitantly. "In your absence, I get so lonely. You never take me to your village. I want to meet your family, too." Samuel suddenly looked up, his expression tightening. "Nina, what's gotten into you? Why would you want to go there? I'm already dealing with enough stress. Don't add to it with pointless talk." His tone grew sharp. After a few bites, he pushed his plate away. "I'm sorry," Nina whispered, lowering her eyes. "I didn't mean to upset you." Samuel sighed heavily. "You don't understand what I'm going through. I lose my temper over the smallest things now. My peace of mind is gone." Samuel leaned back, his voice heavy with frustration. "Whenever I go to the village, Gabriella explodes with anger." "She's obsessed with you? And now you say you want to meet her?" His words carried a sting of sarcasm. Nina lowered her gaze and said softly, "Leave this talk. Please eat the biryani. I made it for you." "I've eaten enough," Samuel murmured, ignoring the plate. His tone softened slightly as he continued. "Gabriella has turned completely against you. I refused to give in to her pressure, and now she's won over my children. My daughters stay quiet, but my sons, who used to adore me, barely speak. They even told me to divorce you." Nina's face drained of color. "Your sons are 12 and 15, old enough to know what's right and wrong. Hearing this frightens me, Samuel. I don't know what might happen next." Her mind suddenly echoed Ms. Nora's warning from before the marriage. "You'll return here soon, Nina. It's easy for a man to leave a woman. Just 3 words and it's over. When his heart tires or his family pressures him, he'll cast you out." Her heart trembled. Samuel noticed her silence. "What are you thinking, Nina?" he asked gently. "Don't worry. This is my burden to carry, not yours. Our marriage is new. It's natural for her to be jealous. With time, things will settle. I've done nothing to be ashamed of. Let them talk." His reassurance gave her a flicker of hope. She smiled faintly, though unease lingered in her heart. Days passed. Simon returned to New York after 15 days. As soon as he arrived, Gabriella rushed to him. "You said you'd find where Samuel has kept that woman," she demanded. "You promised you'd make him divorce her." "What happened to your plan?" Simon leaned back calmly. "It will be done, Gabriella. Be patient. I've already found her house. I've been watching for a week. Samuel visits her often. He's completely lost in her. It won't be easy to pull him away." Gabriella's lips quivered. "I know. I'm not beautiful like that woman, like that dancer who's bewitched my husband. But I'm his wife, the mother of his children. Do whatever it takes, Simon. Just end this madness." "I'm trying," Simon replied, though his tone betrayed hesitation. Tears filled Gabriella's eyes. The longer this goes on, the stronger she becomes. She's stealing him from me. She's stealing everything. Simon looked away, guilt flickering in his eyes. He had never seen his sister so broken. What began as anger had now turned into deep, helpless grief. One evening, Samuel sat with his old friend Seth, going over some tax documents. After a pause, Seth cleared his throat. "Samuel, may I say something personal?" "Of course," Samuel replied casually. Seth hesitated. "I consider you like a brother, so I hope you won't take this the wrong way. But it's not right for a man of your standing to keep a woman like Nina as your wife." Samuel's expression hardened instantly. "What do you mean by a woman like her?" he asked coldly. "I mean," Seth began awkwardly, "her past is no secret. Everyone in the city knows who she used to be. You've done enough for her already. You gave her money, respect, a home. But marriage? That was a mistake, my friend. People talk. They laugh behind your back. You're destroying your own name." Samuel's eyes darkened. "My name doesn't depend on other people's tongues. And Nina's past doesn't change the purity of her heart. She's my wife. And that's final." He stood up abruptly, ending the conversation. But Seth's words left a shadow that wouldn't leave him. That night, when Samuel returned home, he found Nina waiting for him, smiling, unaware that another storm was quietly forming. A few days ago, Seth had called. "Gabriella is worried about you. She asked me to explain things," he said. Then bluntly, "Samuel, you're intelligent. Why invite trouble? Nina isn't young anymore. Her charm will fade. That's why she clings to you so tightly." Samuel's expression hardened. "Please, Seth," he said firmly, "talk about something else. I love her. That's why I married her. She's my wife and living a respectable life. Don't insult her by digging up her past." Seth lowered his eyes, saying nothing further. Around 10 that night, Samuel and Nina were quietly sipping coffee when Frank entered. "Sir, Simon is here to see you," he said respectfully. "Simon?" Samuel muttered, surprised. "At this hour?" He set down his cup. "All right, seat him in the living room." "I'll come," he said, then added to Nina, "I told you about Gabriella's brother. He's probably here to cause trouble." Nina's face tightened. "Then why bring him inside? You could have told him to leave at the door." Samuel didn't reply. He got up quietly and walked to the living room. Simon sat stiffly, eyes cold. "You came without informing me," Samuel said politely. "At least a call would have sufficed." "You've cut ties with Gabriella and the children. You've been hiding here for 15 days, Simon said sharply. "I had something important to discuss, and I wasn't sure you'd answer the phone, so I came myself." Samuel leaned forward. "All right, what do you want?" Without a word, Simon placed a folded paper on the table. "Sign this," he said. "It's your divorce from Nina." Samuel stared, disbelief in his eyes. "Have you lost your mind? If I wanted to leave Nina, why would I have married her?" Simon's lips curled. "So you won't agree?" He slipped his hand into his pocket and pulled out a revolver. Samuel's eyes blazed. "What madness is this? You want to make your sister a widow, now?" Hearing the raised voices, Nina rushed in, and Simon immediately aimed the gun at her. "Don't move!" he shouted. "If you make a sound, I'll shoot." Nina froze, pale with terror. "Simon!" "You've lost control," Samuel shouted. "Whatever you want to say it to me. Don't involve her." Simon's voice shook with anger. "Sign the papers now or I'll kill her." "You'll regret this," Samuel said, trying to calm him. "Think before you act. You're being emotional. Put the gun down." But Simon's finger trembled on the trigger. "Are you signing them or not?" he demanded. "No," Samuel said firmly. "Never." For a heartbeat, time froze. Then Simon's eyes flared. "Fine. Then I'll end this right now." He pulled the trigger. In a desperate instant, Samuel pushed Nina aside, shielding her with his body. The bullet struck his chest. He staggered back, eyes wide, and collapsed. Nina screamed, her voice shattering the house's silence. Blood spread across the carpet. Samuel lay motionless. Her cry tore through the night as she ran from the room, hands trembling, her soul breaking. The man who had promised her love and a new life was gone. Forever. Simon, shaken, had locked the door from the outside. He lost consciousness for a few minutes, but soon recovered. Nina immediately called the police. At first, they included her in the investigation, as Simon accused her of murder. But she was acquitted due to lack of evidence. The repeated ringing of the doorbell pulled Nina back to the present. Her eyes fell on the wall clock. It was 11:30 at night. "Who could it be at this hour?" she murmured. It was James. Nina handed him the maintenance money, and as he took the receipt, he spoke with mild embarrassment. "Miss Nina, I am ashamed of my wife's behavior. You brought food with love, and she disrespected you. Please forgive us, if you can." "Nonsense, James. There's nothing to forgive," Nina said gently as she closed the door. She thought to herself that James was truly a good man. The next evening, as James left to take Wendy to the doctor, he saw Nina sitting in a car at the entrance gate. She looked like a rose in her pink suit, her face adorned with makeup, laughing and chatting with the driver. James glanced for a taxi, but the car left before he could do anything. Wendy turned to her husband, voice sharp and sarcastic. "What did I say to that woman the day before yesterday? Yet you defended her. I reminded her of her past, but look, she will go to hell and take all the men enjoying her beauty with her." James replied calmly, "Wendy, who can say who goes to heaven or hell? The door of repentance is open until death. The world is cruel, and everyone wants to exploit the weakness of others." Already disgusted, Wendy lost her temper completely. "You take this too seriously. Hasn't she invited you to sin? What nonsense are you speaking? Sitting here in a taxi, you call this right? I've spent my life with you, yet you don't trust me," James said, his mood darkening. The rest of the journey passed in tense silence. James and Wendy had long dreamed of performing Hajj. Last year, their applications were rejected, but this year their names finally appeared on the list, and everyone congratulated them. While walking in the compound, Nina approached James with a smile. "James, you are going on Hajj. I will pray for you, hoping I may also be blessed next year." I applied, but my name didn't appear this time. James found it unusual that she blocked his path, speaking so openly. Yes, I will pray. God willing, you will be blessed too," he said politely, and moved toward the stairs. Inside the house, Wendy was waiting. "You are the only one who turns a blind eye to her. Women like Nina are even going for Hajj," she exclaimed sharply. James, calm but firm, replied, "This habit of yours is wrong. Your tongue is full of poison. Nina is a Muslim, and Hajj is obligatory for her like it is for us. God invites whoever he wills. Who are we to decide otherwise?" Wendy opened her mouth, but pressed her lips and stayed silent. The next month, James and Wendy left for Hajj. While performing prayers amidst the millions, Wendy's hand slipped from her husband's in the crowd. Overwhelmed by heat and suffocating, she collapsed. Death seemed to dance before her eyes. Someone accidentally stepped on her legs and she screamed. Then a hand grabbed hers, lifting her to stand. Regaining consciousness, Wendy saw it was Nina who had saved her. She tried to thank her, but fainted again from exhaustion. Nina guided her away from the press of the crowd and, once safe, let go. Her eyes immediately found James, and she burst into tears. "Where did you go, leaving me in such a crowd? What if something had happened to me?" "I didn't let go willingly," James said. "It was too crowded and everyone was rushing. Thank God you weren't hurt." Trembling, Wendy reflected, "I could have died if Nina hadn't stepped forward. She even brought me here safely. My story could have ended today." James, surprised, said, "Nina? Where did she come from?" "She told me her Hajj application was rejected." "You must have seen someone else." Wendy looked around for Nina, but she had already disappeared into the crowd. "Where did she go? I couldn't even thank her," she whispered helplessly. James tried to comfort her. "It's okay. If we meet her later, you can thank her then." He silently thought that his wife must have misunderstood the situation. After returning home from Hajj, neighbors came to congratulate them. Zoe arrived with sweets, a garland of flowers, and some other women. Wendy began recounting her journey and mentioned Nina. "When I saw Zoe fall, I thought my last moment had come. And then Nina. I still wonder how she reached me, not only lifting me up, but pulling me away from the crowd," she said. The neighbors, including Zoe, stared in shock. "Which Nina are you talking about?" Zoe asked. "Your neighbor, Nina Khanum," Wendy replied. Zoe's eyes widened. "Don't joke with me, Wendy. She went out a few days after your departure, and she was shot and killed." "Killed? By whom?" Wendy asked, stunned, unable to grasp the news. "I don't know the exact killer, but people say it was her husband's brother-in-law who is in jail. He was an eyewitness to her murder," Zoe explained. "This is terrible. The police didn't arrest the murderer?" "They only investigate murders of influential people. They don't have time to find the killers of a woman like Nina," Zoe said. Wendy, listening blankly, suddenly began to cry. "James, am I crying over the death of a woman like Nina? I used to call her existence impure. This is the biggest mistake of my life. God knows what action of hers pleased him, that he even let her help me. I invited her to my house," Wendy sobbed. All the women, including Zoe, looked at her in astonishment. Wendy realized her own behavior had been cruel, and her tears reflected sincere regret for judging a woman like Nina.